Hi, welcome to Infusion Health, the podcast. I'm comedian Cris Patrick, a.k.a. Self-Proclaimed Power Man. And I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, guys.
Now, today we got an interesting show because I'm sure we've all dealt with somebody in our family, friend, or whatever, who has dealt with addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction. We've all known somebody who has gone through this. And today he's calling in from Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania. His name is Bruce Wayne Brackett. And he's going to talk to us about addiction. He's a certified motivational speaker, and he's going to talk to us about addiction. He's been 8.5 years sober, or free from hard drugs, and then 68 days recovering alcoholic. And he's going to talk to us about addiction and some of the things that happen with addiction and how to get through it, because we know for a lot of people who get into this, it's not easy. So without further ado, Rach, I'm just going to bring him on the show. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Cris and Rach, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad we finally got this done. But I understood that right in the middle of us planning this, you had to go take care of yourself just a little bit more.
Yes, I did. For many different reasons, really. I am a motivational speaker overcoming from mental health and addiction diseases. And being in the public eye, as much as I am on TikTok, there's a lot of pressure that goes on top of that I have discovered for myself over the last 2 years of being in social media. Mm-hmm. And it gets to a point where I was so busy focusing on uplifting other people that I forgot myself in that process. And I did. I ended up hitting a rock bottom, and I drank alcohol, and I relapsed recently, 68 days ago. And I did. I needed to step back and really take into consideration what is important to me and what it is that I need to continue doing for myself in order for me to stay sober, as well as showing up for other people. So I did. I went to a psychiatric unit for about 9 days, and then I transitioned out of that and went to a rehab, which I ended up leaving early because I wasn't receiving that amount of help that I truly needed at that facility, and discovered that I needed to get myself back into 12-step programs, which has been very helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So I wanted to touch base on, how you've changed your look for TikTok, because it can be very draining in the avenue that you were going before you started going into this new avenue. And before, it was beautiful to see how much you were lifting up other people, but seeing you being drained, feeling that drain in you. And now seeing, your new TikToks, your new Instagram videos and stuff like that, how you're saying, you know what, I fell. You know what, you're not going to be able to rescue, somebody's not coming to rescue you, but you can rescue yourself.
Absolutely. And what's so, it's really, I don't know if ironic is the right word, but just very interesting to me that the day I made that video of, hi, guess what? No one's coming to save you. You're going to have to save yourself, be your own advocate, because you can and you're worth that. Mm-hmm. It was later that day that I relapsed. Okay. And I started the day out strong. And at that time, it was untreated. I have bipolar disorder, and it's been untreated for years. So I did. I entered kind of a manic episode, and later on that day I relapsed. And the next day when I was in the hospital, I took those words of no one's coming to save you, be your own advocate, you can and you're worth that. I took those words and I applied them to myself, as usually I always do when I'm giving inspiration or motivation. I'm not only trying to give that to other people, but I'm saying it for myself too. And it sparked something in me that enough was enough. I have to address my mental health issues with my bipolar and get back on medication. and start taking this a little bit more seriously. You know, I can only do so much for other people, but and especially recently, like how much of that is actually going to be beneficial when I'm not even applying it to myself,
Sure.
you know? So I did. I really needed to step away from the spotlight and turn off the light, in fact, and really just think about what it is that's important to me. And now coming back into work and starting to do TikTok and Instagram more frequently, I'm not doing it as much.
Sure.
Like, I think I posted one video this week,
Mm-hmm.
and it's instead of doing it every single day,
Right.
of which I was doing before. And it is exhausting. It is energy draining. It is a lot of give. And there, you know, I really wasn't properly receiving the way that I should have been. There's an outpouring of love, and a lot of people, I'm very fortunate to be a creator with such a large platform where I am not receiving that much hate.
Right.
It, you know, I have, but I really am not receiving that. It's a lot of love, and I'm very humbled by that. And for some reason, I wasn't absorbing that for myself.
Right.
And, you know, I think that this is very common, especially with people who are struggling from mental health or addiction. There's just something in us that says we are not worthy enough
Right.
of that good reaction or of love or of self-love. So I think that's very, very common. I know I'm not alone there, but
No,
I do
you're not
struggle
at
with
all.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, it's kind of like that commercial that you see with the fake face. You know, they've got a smile on that cardboard, but inside you're just tore down.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and it goes back to, you know, our childhood. You know, a lot of us get told, you know, put a smile on somebody else's face. And one person that had a real hard time was Robin Williams. He made the world laugh, but he couldn't make himself smile.
Yeah. My heart. Yes. Rest in peace, Robin. Absolutely.
So,
He's a prime example of that. And it's so unfortunate. And he did. He made millions and millions of people's worlds and experience in this journey so much better and so much lighter. And thank you for bringing that up. I need to also just myself learn from his example to not repeat the outcome, the unfortunate outcome of how it ended for him.
Right.
That, you know, it's something that I think about every day, in ways of how can I continue going down this journey without hurting myself?
Mm-hmm. But I think you did really good in giving yourself that call to action before you went into the hospital. You said nobody's going to be here. In a way, you were talking to yourself, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, let's
and I heard even louder was in the hospital. I was like, oh, well, I really need to be my own advocate here. And especially going into the rehab program right after I was discharged from the hospital and realizing very quickly that this was also not the proper place for me. I wasn't receiving the treatment I needed in a rehab facility, which is very unfortunate because I am not the only one with that story.
Very true. Well, Chris has been trying to ask a question, so before we
no, let's just take it back. Okay, so when you got started, when you got started with, you know, drugs and alcohol, we all have this. We all have the same story. You know, we go to school. We go to middle school or junior high school. We go to high school, and you got the friends who, you know, somebody steals some steal some alcohol or, have some, marijuana or something like that. Oh, try it. And then you try it, and then you guys are partying, you're having a good time. And then years later, you're 25, 30, something like that. And then all of a sudden you realize that, oh, I got an addiction. When did it start for you? Let's go back.
Well, for me, it started in utero when my mother was carrying me.
Okay.
I was born into detox, and that, essentially from day one for me. And I reintroduced myself to substances when I was 16, and very similar to what Cris just said. There was the high school parties that, mom and dad don't know about, and the bonfire and whatnot. And that happened for me when I was 16, but after, oh my goodness, my parents are saints. I literally put them through the ringer. So I ran away from home when I was 16 in the month of July in 2007. And I went on a rather adult life experience, if you will. I don't really know about profanity on this podcast, but
we can always put up a disclaimer, so feel free.
Okay, yeah, I went on what I called, and in my book I do call it this, but I went on a fuck tour when I was 16. That's what I've entitled it, and I bounced around from city to city with money that I had stolen, or just seeing if I can hop on a bus without someone really checking for tickets and whatnot. And I did. I went around, and my first drug that I did try was crystal meth.
Ooh.
So I skipped I went straight for the hard shit. Like that's where my mind was when I was 16. And then a lot of other drugs kind of came into play with that. But I was basically just prostituting my way around the country for sex and drugs. And when I got back home in Montana, of course, I was placed in a juvenile detention center because I'd broken the law. I'd stolen my parents' car, I'd stolen money, all of these things. So then that transitioned to group homes and whatnot. But after that summer, when I went home, I think I only had one drink at a party that I was not supposed to be at. And that was really the limitation of my substance use while in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All of it happened during that summer. Like that's when I went crazy and disassociated and kind of did it all at once in a very short period of time. And then, coming back and being placed back into public schools and whatnot, I really, after that experience, I was like, no, no, I think I'm good. Because there were a lot of not so fun times during that summer. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until, fast forward, I moved to New York City in 2009, right out of high school, to pursue my dreams of being a Broadway dancer. And within the entertainment industry in itself, there's a lot of substance abuse.
Yeah.
And, the constant rejection and the whole audition process, everything, constantly hearing no. I let it get to me too soon, and I didn't keep applying my credits and my talents to myself. Instead of ignoring the no's, just keep going, I gave into it. And so I stopped auditioning, and I went into the nightlife and started working at nightclubs as a go-go dancer, and was almost immediately fed alcohol and drugs again. Mm-hmm. So I was 21 or right before I turned 21. And, I, in some of these clubs, I wasn't legally even allowed to be in them because I wasn't 20. But, if you're young and attractive and willing to do dirty things, anyone's going to let you in, because that's fortunately how that works. So yeah, when I was 21, everything really spiked for me. I was very careless. I didn't care about myself. I wasn't having protected sex. I became HIV positive, and that was a serious rock bottom for me. And it wasn't like a rock bottom of like, oh, I should turn my life around and maybe better myself. That's when the floodgates opened for my use with crystal meth again. And I went really, really hard for a long time with that. So yeah, it's been a very colorful journey, to say the least.
So I have a question for you.
After sorry, Rach, but after that, how did you get into motivational speaking?
It's been something that has always been a little light inside of me that I've been very curious about, and I've dreamt upon it. And after living such a fast-paced, hard cycle life for so long, and being able to realize that I have been given a gift here. This is a God-given gift, God, higher power, the universe, whatever it is that we want to identify our higher power to be. For me, it's very the universe and energies and just a higher power that has given me a gift to still be here and to still be alive and to be able to uplift and motivate and naturally be able to help people feel better. Once I started to see that I have a little bit of that gift, and then I applied it going on TikTok, and then it exploded over the last 2 years. I was like, well, that's a very loud sign that this is a direction I should be going in. And when I became sober from crystal meth, I was 23, and it was in 2014, June 13th of 2014, actually. And I took all of my paraphernalia, the pipes, the remaining crystals that I had left, and I took it to a mausoleum cemetery up in Harlem in New York City. And I sat there up on top of a hill for a second, just on top of someone's mausoleum, basically. And there was a rock sitting next to me, which I still have, actually. And I took that rock and I crushed my pipe and the remaining crystal meth that I had left. And I sprinkled the dust of what it created down into a vent going into this mausoleum, which, God forgive me, whoever's mausoleum that was, I'm so sorry. And it began to rain, and I felt so cleansed, and for the first time, almost as if it was one of my first big spiritual awakenings, and I've not touched it since. It's been 8.5 years. And that's why I paint. I'm a portrait artist as well. And one of my abstract pieces that I've painted hundreds of times now at this point just showed in an art gallery last night in New York City. And it is the vision of my recovery with crystal meth. And it's just so emotional for me, really, to be able to viscerally put myself back in that frame of thinking and in that exact place from when I first said, okay, I'm done. I have to be done with this. And I give up, take it from me. And then to fast forward and to have that story be put into a painting now for the world to see in a gallery in New York City, not only motivates me even more to continue on this journey, but it also proves that I can do this with alcohol as well. And, you know, it's a very unfortunate thing, but between 40 and 60% of addicts who go through rehab within a year after completing the treatment, they are prone to relapse, and 40 to 60% of them do relapse, which is a very large number. So that also, you know, with my recent experience going to this rehab and realizing, okay, this isn't what I needed. This is basically a money pit of a rehab that's taking Medicaid or private insurance or just handfuls of money to keep us safe in a safe environment. It's essentially like being in a hotel 24/7 without really receiving like fundamental core groups about our addiction or about the recovery process of our addiction or how to even avoid certain triggers. And the lack of AA meetings that were in this rehab was despicable. It really was almost insulting to me as an addict that there was such a lack of care for what reason we were actually there in the first place. Right. So that number of 40 to 60% of addicts who go through rehab after they come out, they relapse again, is not shocking to me.
No. I was just recently at a work in service because me and you had a conversation before this podcast, and thank you so much for bringing light to that. Because if you're not in the right rehab, then you need to find the right rehab.
Exactly, and they're there.
So in this in-service, it was about suicidal precautions. Right now, the places are so full and very little openings anywhere else that people are being boarded in the ER and all over the hospital. And all we're doing is watching them like a science experiment for 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, we charted that, hey, they're behaving in the bed, or they're not behaving in the bed, or they're just sleeping, or whatever. And that doesn't give you the tools that you need. For me, myself, I do have bipolar. It's diagnosed. And 17 years ago, I tried taking my life. And I had 5 children at that time. And I said, I need to fix this for me. I went through a 6-month rehab. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I learned the tools. They didn't sit there and watch me. They taught me the things, right? And we're not trained in the hospital to give them the needs that they have. But there's got to be a better system in the future. You know, even if you get on, you know, some kind of device that says, okay, what are you going through today? How can we get you through to the next step and stuff like that? Because the statistics of the ER, and this is really sad to say, is in with, 24 hours of being released, someone will commit suicide. That person will commit suicide, so you have to watch them within the first 24 hours, 48 hours, 7 days, 1 year, and by the 5th year, the possibility of them being dead is very high. So we have to find a better system. And if your rehab that you've checked yourself into isn't the right thing, then you got to go to the next step.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very unfortunate of the statistics of what you just shared with me. And first off, I want to thank you so much for still being here, because you are doing very important work, and you yourself are very, very important. And that work wouldn't be happening if you chose otherwise. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. So,
and I can really relate to that. There are many days with people who, I mean, in general, human beings in general, whether they suffer from mental health issues or not, you know, this is the thing that we really face. And I think that we all have experienced at one time or another the want to no longer be here. And for some of us, it's a lot more serious. And for some of us, it's actually how it pans out. So, I really admire you sharing that, and thank you.
Of course. So I got a question for you. If you could go back in time,
Yeah.
I just recently was blessed with the assignment from my boss in the hospital, and she said to write about 10 questions to try and get to know people better. One of my favorite questions I put on there is, if you could go back in time to talk to yourself, at what age would that be, and what would you tell them?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I'm like, let's see, age 3, age 10, age 12, age 16, age 18, 21. So many times I would go back. But I think the most crucial point in my life that I would go back to have a conversation with myself would be 18, because it was the healthiest that I have been, I think, in my life, up until I'm starting to feel that way again. Because now that I'm back on my bipolar medication, it's amazing what medication will do for you when you need to take it and when you actually take it. So yeah, I would say 18, because I was in an open mindset, and I was really receiving and working a better program for myself. So I would go back and tell myself that, one, calm down. You're not all that. You don't know everything. And the more that you learn as you go through your life, the stronger that you will become. You have to keep going through all of the hurdles, through all of the mountains that are going to be thrown your way. If you climb those mountains, it will be so worth it. And that I'm going to be okay.
Well, and that's the thing too with drug addiction, because I'm always looking at it. People always, me, like I've never been addicted to drugs. I never got into it, especially being in the entertainment business, as a musician and a comedian. But one of the things people always say is that, and I've learned this through the years, is that people say, well, that's them people over there. That's them people in the ghettos. That's those people in the black neighborhood. Well, that's the rich people. That's it. And with drug addiction, what I found out is that drugs don't care if you're white, black, blue, green. They don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, if you're gay, straight, whatever. They like everybody, and anybody can be subject to this. No, whether if you came from a good home, a bad home, or whatever, anybody can be subject to to drug addiction.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does not discriminate at all. It's very inclusive. It's one of the most inclusive things I can think of, actually, which is, it is. It's very unfortunate. And I like that you just said that it doesn't matter where your background is from, where you're from, from a good home, from a bad home. Those are both very valid reasons for, especially addicts and the addict mindset, for them to use. Whether, I use because I come from a good home. I use because I come from a bad home. There's so many different, and every excuse that we can possibly think of is a reason to pick up. Like, it doesn't matter if, the sky's blue, so I'm going to take a shot. I got home safe, so I'm going to take a shot.
I'm celebrating. I'm mourning. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sad. I'm happy. This successful thing just happened. This unsuccessful thing just happened. So we can come up with any excuse in the book, and it doesn't matter who you are, what age you are, what your background is like, what color skin you have, who you go to bed with at night. Yeah. It doesn't, all of those things has nothing to do and everything to do with it at the same time, So it's, it really is a disease that, well, first off, it is a disease.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're like myself, being born into detox from drugs and alcohol, or if you never had a problem with it and you go through half of your life and then all of a sudden, you start drinking on the weekends because, why not? And then it can develop.
Mm-hmm.
And people who have never had this addiction personality, or they've never identified that they like yourself, Cris, and knock on all of the wood that you remain that way, because I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. But for people like you too, eventually, if you start playing with it, you can quickly pick up an addiction.
Yeah.
So it really, it's just. And the thing that really gets me is that we see a lot of these ads or even motivational speakers going around the country talking to our youth and just saying, don't do this, don't do drugs, because they're bad. Okay, great. But like, where are the people? And this is where I think I come into play, is that I don't want to just say don't do drugs because they're bad, but give them the truth and the deeper reasons behind it. Don't do drugs because you will love it so much that you will you will willingly give everything in your life away for that drug. And how scary and how deep it actually really gets.
Yeah, it'll take over your life. It'll literally take over your life.
Yeah. And it's just amazing to me, because I had a year and a half sober from alcohol before this relapse. And I picked up drinking exactly where I left it. So I was, when I was a year and a half ago, I was drinking 3-4 bottles of wine, no problem, by myself. And a year and a half later, great sober time, great. And then I relapsed again. I drank 3 bottles by myself on that first relapse. I just picked up right where I left off. There was no working my way up to it, right. Like the gym, we go to the gym and we work out and it takes forever and we build up strength and then we stop going to the gym. You don't, after a year and a half of not going to the gym, you don't go into the gym picking up exactly where you left off. You have to build up again.
Yep. You got to build.
And addiction is like that. It, the second you let it back into your life, it wants you dead, and it wants you dead now.
Well, this has been an interesting conversation. If people want to get a hold of you, because you're also a certified motivational speaker, do you do Zoom counseling or whatever? Or?
Do I do Zoom counseling?
Yeah.
No, mainly right now, my sourcing, everything that I do is based off of my TikTok or Instagram accounts. And I have people reach me through my website, which is bwbart.com. I've gotten the majority of my clientele and also clients for portraiture art through advertising through TikTok and directing them to my website. And once they get to my website, they see everything else that I provide and that I do. And my TikTok is bwb.positivity and Instagram is bwb.artist.
Okay, and
that will be in the show notes.
Rachel will have that in the show notes. Well, like I said, it's been an interesting comment. If you want to get a hold of Bruce, he like Rachel said, it'll be in the show notes. And it was an interesting conversation. And if you're out there and you are addicted, or you do feel that you are becoming an addict, there are ways for you to get through this, and you're not alone out there. And reach out. And I will let Rach close us out.
Yeah. Bruce, we would love to bring you back when you're ready for rejection and to find yourself in, every positive thing that you're doing now, the reason for it ultimately is my daughter wants to get into the big showbiz, and there's so many young actors out there that have faced the things that you have.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And, it's totally possible. Like, Cris is a leading example of that. We can enter really tough industries with complete success, and we don't have to pick up. And also, Cris, thank you so much. And Rach, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This has been a very interesting and amazing conversation. And to anyone who is suffering, there are many resources out there which are available in a quick Google search. NAMI is a national organization that you can go on to their website. And also the new, I believe it's pretty new, but if you dial 988
yes,
instead of 911, 988 will direct you immediately to a mental health professional, whether you are dealing with mental health, addiction, or suicidal ideation. That is a excellent reference for them. So
on our cell phones, I can vouch. Tried calling that number. We have T-Mobile. T-Mobile is switching into it. If you cannot get 988 and it is emergency, please call 911. If you just absolutely need to talk to, there are lines out there, and I will also put those in the show notes.
You're amazing. You both are amazing. Thank you so much.
Love you, Bruce. I'll talk to you soon. And you guys take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great one.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.